Hello, and welcome back to our math adventures. I'm Mrs. Fithian, and I'm a kindergarten teacher at Hebron Elementary. I'm so excited that you're back again with me, and if you've been following me this whole time, you know that I like to do a little bit of deep breathing to calm down and get focused and relaxed before we jump in. So let's do that. Now, we've already done some hot cocoa breathing, we've done some dandelion breathing, and today we're going to do something called bird breathing. Now, it actually doesn't remind me too much of a bird other than the fact that our arms are going to be going up and down, but it's very slow and we're not really flapping. So let's do some bird breathing and let me show you what that is. So we're going to start standing up. So if you'd stand up with me, have your feet far apart or shoulder width apart, and we're going to be taking those deep breaths right from our belly again. It's very easy to take a shallow breath right here in our chest, but we want to be pushing out our belly while we breathe. So we're going to take our arms up all the way to the top and touch our fingertips while we take in a deep breath through our belly. And while we do that, we're going to breathe in through our nose. Then when we get to the top, our fingertips touch, and then we're going to breathe out through our mouth very slowly while we bring our arms down. So we're going to do about 5 of those, okay? So get your arms and your body ready, and here we go. Ready? In and out. Don't forget to push out that belly as you breathe in and out. In and out. In and out. And one more really good breath in and out. Nice job. Okay, so we're calm, our breathing is slowed down, and we're ready to jump in. Now, the last few weeks we've been talking about comparing groups of objects to see which one had more and which one had less. And we're going to kind of build on that as we go through the next few lessons, but our big math idea is really going to be about place value, or what does a number mean depending on its position. So if you could think about the number 1, there's one number, or one digit. And we're going to learn what the word digit means in a little bit. But that 1 means something different in the number 1 than it does in maybe the number 13, where we would have a 1 and a 3. Now that's a little confusing without seeing it up on the board, so we're going to do that in just a minute. But first, I really want to show you a video that I found about catching the teen numbers. So our teen numbers can be tricky, and they're they have something in common because they all start with a 1, and you're going to see that in just a minute. But I found this video on YouTube on Brainsy Games by education.com, and I think it's a very quick, catchy video to show you how we can grab a 10 and help us with place value. So let's take a look.
Meet my favorite counting friend. We call this guy a 10. When you count numbers more than 9, well, he can help you then. He's a helpful little fella, let me tell ya. When counting fast, depend on a 10. A 16 would take ages if you counted one by one. But grab a 10 and then 6 ones, and suddenly you're done. Grab a 10 and then 6 ones to speed your counting fun. A 12's a 10 and 2 ones. 17's a 10 and 7. 19's a 10 and 9 ones. A 10 and 1 is 11. So now you know the secret to counting tricky teens. You take a 10 and add some ones to get just what you need. Yes, you take a 10 and add some ones to get just what you need.
Okay. Oops. So before we jump into what's on the board here, I brought some items from home, and I wanted to kind of play a guessing game with you. So I have some groups of objects here, minus my pen. So I brought some blocks, and I brought some cereal, and some pipe cleaners or chenille sticks, whatever you want to call those. And then on this side I have some beads, like we would use for crafting, and I brought some coins, some pennies and a dime. So I want you to think for just a minute about these objects that I brought and maybe how they're set up. And be thinking about that as we go, because we're really not going to explore much with these today, but we will tomorrow, so make sure that you tune in. But I think you're going to understand, once we see what we do on the board, why we have these and how that video that we just watched on YouTube ties everything together, okay? So be thinking about that as we go on. So the video talked about grabbing a group of 10, and you saw the little girl in the video, how she was trying to count her ducks, and then she had other objects, and she was grabbing or kind of wrangling a group of 10. So we're going to do that. So let's fix my screen here. All right, so what do you see? So take just a second while I get my board ready and look at what's up here. Okay, so what do you see? Dots, right? Or counters if we're going to be talking about math. So let's call these counters. And how many are there? Well, if you're a really good guesser, you might have already guessed the answer, but I'm going to need to count those. So let's count them and mark them out as we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. All right? Pretty easy. We know how to do this. Now, what if I did exactly what the video told me and grabbed a group of 10? So I'm going to erase my marks, and I'm going to circle a group. Maybe. Let's see. Now how many dots do I have, or counters? Well, some of you guessed 15 again. Let's see if we're right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And then what about these out here outside the circle? We still need to count those. So we had 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. So did it matter that I put the circle around the group of 10? No. Okay, let's try it a different way. Or let's look at another example first, okay? And then we'll try a different way. I'm getting ahead of myself. All right, let's look at this group. How many do we have? Right, it's kind of hard to tell, right? Unless you're actually pointing at the TV and counting. So let's count together. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. All right, 12 counters. Now, let's do what we did last time. I'm going to circle them, clear my marks, and I'm going to circle a group. Now how many counters do I have? Some of you are catching on. Some of you still said 12. Let's see if you're right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So I still have 12 counters. How many were in the circle or the shape? 10. Now, did grabbing the 10 or circling the 10 make it a different number? No. But did it make it a little easier to count, or maybe a little faster when we were counting? Absolutely. Just like if we were making tally marks, then we could start counting by groups of 5, and it makes our counting go quicker. When we isolate or find our group of 10, or the video from YouTube said grab a group of 10, it makes it a little easier and a little faster to count. Now, grabbing that 10 may not seem like it applies to the objects that I brought today, but it does, and I'll show you how. Now, this is what we did just a minute ago with my circle, where I isolated my 10, and this is where we just had the dots. Now, you've already told me it didn't make a difference whether I did this or this. The dots are still the same. There's 12 here and 12 here. But instead of counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, I'm able to just know and trust that inside my circle there are 10 dots, so I can say 10, 11, 12. It's much faster to count that way. We can also organize them a little bit better, and I actually prefer this because it's easier to see and it's in a nice row using a 10 frame. Now, you know from past lessons and from what your teacher might have taught you this year that a 10 frame is just a frame with 10 boxes. When it's full, we have how many in it? 10, that's right. So let's count it just to make sure. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So there are 10 counters in my 10 frame. So I can count on 11, 12, or If I'm going to trust for the rest of our math lessons that when a 10 frame is full, it's 10, I can simply say, and I always like to mark it out with my pencil, I can say 10, 11, 12. All right, so let's try a few of these. How many dots do you see here? I'm going to give you just a second. Right, I heard some of you shout it out already. You may already be practicing taking this whole group as 10 and counting on. So let's do it together, moving on from 10. So this will be 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. Now, if you're still a little unsure and you're not ready to trust that 10 frame yet, let's go ahead and count it and make sure. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. Okay? Now, let's look here. Before I could even get the pen ready, I heard the answer, and you are correct, it is 13. We could count all of those counters again in our 10 frame, but we're really trying to trust that when we see a group of 10 like this, it is 10. So this would be 10, 11, 12, and 13. Do you see how grabbing that 10 is making it a little easier and faster for us to count? Now let's take a look at one more. Okay, so before I start, you see if you can count those and tell me what you see. All right, so let's start off with our special group of 10. We've already grabbed that 10, so we're going to say 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. All right? Now, we have another way that we can show our special groups of 10 without using a 10 frame. Now, you may have seen this in class before. I don't think this is new, but if it is, let me give you a brief introduction. When we use cubes or blocks, depending on what you or your teacher like to call them, this represents 1. Now, I brought some of these today, so I'm going to show you. I didn't have my blocks or my snap cubes or Unifix cubes that I use in class because I'm not in my classroom. But I do have these from home that I borrowed from my children. So we're going to pretend that this block right here is the same thing as this. So this means 1 for today's lesson. Over here, when I have 10 blocks, they become a group of 10, and they can be called rods or sticks, again, depending on what you call them. I use both of those terms interchangeably, so when I say a rod or a stick of 10 or a group of 10, you're going to know that this is 10. Now, don't take my word for it, okay? I'm going to ask you to trust me in a little bit on this, but let's go ahead and count it and make sure. We see 1 here, so we know that a unit or a cube means 1, but let's try this. Count with me in this group of 10 or this rod or this stick, how many little cubes make this up? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. All right? And I'm going to show you real quick with the blocks that I brought what that looks like. Okay, so here, let's count these together. All right, so I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Now, if I wanted to keep counting, I'm going to bring some more over here and ask you to count this number. This gets a little confusing because there's a lot to deal with. But just like what we saw earlier in the video, we practiced with the counters in the 10 frame, and what we've just seen here is we can trust that when we build our group of 10, that's always going to be 10. So let's build that real quick. So here I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Now, if I'm asking you to count these, it's much easier to say, oh, Mrs. Fithian said this is a stick of 10, so I know this is 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. All right, so we're going to move this to the side, but you're going to see it up on the screen, and we're going to trust that when we see that, it's a group of 10. All right, so we were using counters a moment ago, so count them one more time to tell me what you see. And this was 12. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. But I really want us to move on from counters and look at the cubes. So let's switch all those to some cubes. And we're going to actually wrangle in our 10 So before we had, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I'm going to circle those. All right, and we can trade those in, just like you saw. We traded them in for a stick here. We're going to turn these into a stick or a rod of 10 as well, just like this. So now when I see this, I know that this means 10, 11, and 12. Let's try another one. All right. Let's count from here. We are going to trust that this is 10. And when I do that, I sometimes like to put a line through it so I know I've counted it. So that makes 10. This would be 11, 12, 13, and 14. So after you grab your group of 10, you can count on by ones. All right? And we know that these little cubes mean 1, just like this one block. Let's look at another one. How many does this show? Yep, this one's a little easier and a little faster. So this would be 10, and one more would be 11. Now I actually want us to take a minute and look at this number 11. So I'm going to make it a little bit bigger and show you. These ones, this number 11 is made up of 2 digits. One here and one here. All right, a digit is any number from 0 to 9. Some numbers, like the number 11, are made up of, are 2 digits, and some of them, just like the number 1 or the number 3, is 1 digit. Okay? Let's erase that so it's not confusing. Maybe. Boop. And go back here. This one, I'm going to use green. This one right here is talking about one group of 10. That's what this one means. One group. But inside the group, how many did we have? 10. And let's count them again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So there's really 10 little ones that we stack together to make one group. So that's what this one means. But this one, and I'll use this orangey color, this one is talking about this little guy that was left behind. Okay? Now, that still can be a little confusing, especially using the number 11 because it's 2 ones. But we're going to watch another video in just a minute, and we're going to see how these numbers and how their place or their position changes the place value of the number. All right? Before we jump into a video, I want to turn to our packet, and we're going to do a quick check. So in your packet, I'm on page 10. So I'm going to give you just a second to get there. And as a reminder, anytime on the slides or the TV you see this symbol, this means we're going to work in our packet together. All right, so when you find that, it's day 5, and we're going to practice composing the number. Composing means we're building the number or we're making the number. So we are using our rods and cubes, or our sticks and units, and we're going to be using our 10 frames. So let's look at the first one together. All right. Now, let's count this, and we're going to trust that that's a group of 10. So this is 1, 10. So I'm going to actually write the number 1 and the word 10 next to it. This is 1, 10. And these are how many ones? 2. 1, 2. All right, so I'm going to put 2 ones. Now, I'm just writing this to practice saying out loud what a stick of 10 or a group of 10 means, what this rod is. It's 1, 10, and these little guys are 2, and they're called ones, okay, those little cubes. Now, if I look at this again, this was how many groups of 10? 1. So I'm going to put my 1 here, and how many units or ones did I have left over? 2. So I put my 2 here, and this is the number 12. Very good. All right, let's try another one. We're switching gears, so I'm going to switch colors, and we're going back to our 10 frames. It's the same idea, it's just a different way to look at them. So I see a 10 frame here that's full, so we're going to trust that that's how many? There's 10, but how many groups? This is one big group of 10, so I have one group of 10, 1, 10. And let's count these little ones. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So 9 ones. And remember, I'm just writing this as practice to say this out loud. So if I want to transfer my number over here, I have how many groups of 10? 1. Oops, that's a messy one. And how many ones do I have left over? 9. So your writing will be much better than mine on this board, and my number is 19. Okay? Let's take a look at the last problem you have. I think yours is on the same page. All right, and we've gone back to our sticks and cubes, or our rods and units, whatever you would like to call those. So this is a group of what? 10, so there's 10 inside. We could keep counting on, that's 10, 11, 12, 13. But I really want to see how I'm getting that number. So this is one group of 10. And this is 3 ones. And then if I bring those numbers over, how many groups of 10? 1. And how many ones left over? 3. So my number is 13. Now we're going to be spending 4 days on this, but doing different activities each day. So I promise this will get a little easier to understand because it can be confusing talking about the ones and the tens. All right, so let's take a look at how we can practice place value with Annie and Moby. If you've never been to Brain Pop or Brain Pop Junior, this is a great website. They have videos, games, flashcards, jokes that all relate to the same topic. And so we're going to jump in and have Annie and her robot Moby help us figure out place value. All right.
Awesome slam dunk! What's the score? No, Moby, the game is not tied. They scored 6 points, which is the same as 6 ones. We scored 16 points, which is the same as 1 10 and 6 ones. What is place value? Numbers can be made up of just one digit. But numbers can have more than one digit too. The number 6 has only one digit. The number 16 has 2 digits, 1 and 6. Each digit in a number stands for a group. The value, or how much each digit stands for, depends on its place in the number. This is called place value. What are ones? Let's see. How many cubes do we have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. We have 9 cubes. When you count things one by one, you count up by ones. When we write the number 9, it's in the ones place. Some numbers have more than one digit, like the number on my shirt. What are tens? When you combine 10 ones, you get a group of 10. On a 100 chart, each row has 10 ones. You can combine tens and ones to make a 2-digit number. Let's see. We've got one group of 10. We also have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 ones. So we have 15 cubes. The digit farthest to the right shows how many ones we have, 5 ones. The digit next to it shows how many groups of tens we have, 1 group of 10.
I am going to pause. I'm going to pause Moby and Annie for just a minute because I want to go back to something that they were talking about. Moby and Annie were looking at these 2 scores on the scoreboard, and Moby was a little confused. He was thinking that these were the same because they both had a 6. Now, the number 6 here, we know from what we've practiced today, means 6 ones, or 6 little cubes, like what we practiced with these. And he was getting confused because he saw the number 6 here as well, but he wasn't noticing that there was another digit in the number 16. The number 16, this 1 stands for our 1 group of 10 that we've learned that we can build once we have 10 together. And then there were still 6 ones left over. Now, we're going to see tomorrow that all of these all of these teen numbers begin with a what? With a 1. So that 1 means they all have what in them? 1 group of 10. Very nice. So you've been working really hard today, and we've been seeing how we can take our counters. They can be messy, and we could wrangle our group of 10 with a circle. We could put them in a 10 frame, or we could build them out of blocks and make a rod or a stick of 10, and the number stays the same, the overall number. This will always be 17, even if we take those counters out of the 10 frame, and this is another way that we can make 17. All right? So you've worked very hard, and let's talk about how you can keep exploring at home before we hit tomorrow's lesson. Now, you always have your packet, so you have lots of different examples, and there's even a couple more than that are in your packet on pages 11 and 12, I believe. And you can practice marking through that group of 10 and trusting that that's 10, and then counting on. Or you could go over here to splashlearn.com. On the very last page of your packet, I've included this website. And this is just a little, screenshot of the game. And you're really going to be manipulating groups of 10, meaning you're going to be counting and dragging objects into 10 frames to isolate those groups of 10. So thank you for joining me today. Today's code word is tens, like we've been learning, tens, T-E-N-S. And I hope that you'll practice at home, and I'll see you tomorrow. Thanks so much.